welcome to another episode of the Bright Light Show. I hope that you're all well. Have you been enjoying the snow? I hope you've managed to build some really big snowmen. I feel like starting with a bit of a dance. Let's have our song.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Every day, every day, every day, in every way, I'm gonna let my little light shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Every day, every day, every day, in every way, I'm gonna let my little light shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Every day, every day, every day, in every way, I'm gonna let my little light shine. On a Monday,
He gave me the gift of love.
on a Tuesday,
His peace came down from above.
on a Wednesday,
He told me just what to say.
on a Thursday,
He taught me just how to pray.
on a Friday,
He gave me a little more faith.
on a Saturday,
He gave me a lot more grace.
on a Sunday,
He gave me the power divine.
to let my little light shine. This little light of mine,
Hallelujah.
I'm gonna let it shine.
Let it
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Every day,
Every day,
every day,
every day,
every day, in every way, I'm gonna let my little light shine. On a Monday,
He gave me the gift of
love. On a Tuesday,
His peace came down from above.
on a Wednesday, he told me just what to say. On a Thursday,
He taught me just how to play.
on a Friday,
He gave me a little more faith.
on a Saturday,
He gave me a lot more grace.
on a Sunday,
He gave me the power divine.
to let my little light shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine,
I'm gonna let it
shine. Every day,
every day,
every day,
every day.
every day, in every way, I'm gonna let my little light
I'm gonna let it shine.
You got something.
I'm gonna let it shine.
Good stuff. So this morning we're going to be continuing with our series of thinking about some of the people that Jesus met. So far, Jesus has met some people that went on to be his disciples, like James and John, who were a bit angry, who was a fisherman, Matthew, who was a tax collector. Jesus has met people that he helped, like the man with the withered hand, and the people that needed feeding, the 5,000 people. And Jesus has met people that didn't really like him very much, like the Pharisee and definitely the Roman centurion. But this week, the person that Jesus met doesn't really fall into any of those categories. Jesus had been arrested and was now stood in front of the Roman governor. His name was Pilate. Pilate was the Roman in charge. He had been asking Jesus questions, but Jesus just stood quietly. As well as Pilate, there were other people there too, other Jewish people in charge, like priests and elders. It was quite a crowd. Pilate also had another prisoner there called Barabbas. Now Barabbas was pretty famous. He'd been fighting the Romans and some of the people in charge, but he had been arrested. Now it was a special tradition that Pilate could release one prisoner to freedom. So it would be Jesus or Barabbas. Pilate asked the priests and the elders who they wanted to free, and to his surprise they asked for Barabbas to be released. So Pilate did. Pilate had Jesus taken away to be crucified. So that was the story of Jesus and Barabbas. And you can read all about that in Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. So here's the question which we always ask. Why do Matthew, Mark, Luke and John include this story? Well, actually, it's because it's really important. But before we get to that, I've got a question for you. And here's my question. How do you eat a cream egg?
How do you eat yours?
I eat mine with a spoon.
I eat mine like corn on the cob.
I eat mine in half.
I eat mine all in one.
Sometimes two.
So there are lots of ways of trying to eat a cream egg, and I bet you've got your own ways too. All those people had the same goal. They wanted to eat their cream egg. They just had a different way of trying to do it. And that's a little bit like Barabbas and Jesus. They had the same goal. They wanted to bring about revolution. They wanted to bring about God's kingdom. They just had very different ways of doing it. So what do we know about Barabbas? Let's have a think. We know that he'd been arrested by the Romans, and in the Bible he's described as an insurrectionist. That means Barabbas had been trying to get rid of the Romans by fighting and killing them. As you know, the Romans had been in charge for a long time and made life very hard and very unfair for the Jewish people. So it's not surprising people wanted to get rid of them. And that's just what Barabbas tried to do, except he'd got himself arrested. So what else do we know about Barabbas? Well, last week we thought about how names can tell us a lot about someone. If you remember, Jesus gave James and John nicknames, and their nicknames were the Sons of Thunder, because they were quite hot-headed and angry. So to help us understand a bit more about why Matthew and Mark and Luke and John included this story, we need to think about names. Barabbas' name means son of the Father. Jesus also had many names, many titles, like Son of Man and Lord and Son of God. As Christians, we often refer to God as Father. In fact, Jesus encourages us to do that. So Jesus is the Son of the Father. Jesus also wanted to bring about God's kingdom, just like Barabbas, but he didn't want to fight to do it. In fact, Jesus said the opposite. Jesus said things like, always forgive, loving your enemies, that would mean the Romans, and putting other people first, which is what we see Jesus doing again and again and again. So Matthew and Mark and Luke and John are using the story of Barabbas and Jesus to ask us a question. And this is the question. How will you live? Who will you follow? Will you live like Barabbas and try and bring about God's kingdom by fighting and killing and hurting? Or will you try and bring about God's kingdom by showing love and compassion and forgiveness like Jesus? Now you might be thinking, well, that's really interesting, Stu, but I'm only 8 years old. What's that got to do with me? Great question. Actually, it's got a lot to do with you, because whether you're 8 or 38 or 68 or 98, how we live and how we treat other people matters. It's really important. The words that we use and our actions, they matter because our words are powerful. So it's really important to think about the words that we use, whether we're talking to people that we live with, whether we're talking to our best friends, or whether we're talking to the people that sometimes get on our nerves and that we find it really difficult to get along with. Our words matter. How we treat that person, how we make them feel, matters. And it matters what we do, how we live. So this question, are we going to live like Barabbas or are we going to live the Jesus way, is one that we can all think about and all try and answer. Right, that's enough of that. Time for a craft.
Craft time.
Good morning, everybody. We were thinking today in the story about how names and actions are important. Jesus showed his love and care for everyone he met through his words and actions. And unlike Barabbas, who wanted to use force to fight the Romans, Jesus used words of love and spread peace. Now, I'm sure that you know today is a special day. It's Valentine's Day. And traditionally, people share messages of love to those who are special to them. So to remind us about how Jesus spread love to all, we're going to have a go at making a Valentine's card to give to somebody. You might want to give it to someone who is with you, or you might want to post it to someone you haven't seen for a long time. So to make your card, you're going to need some paper or card to make your card with, and you might want to find some scraps or some bits of paper, old wrapping paper, silver foil, anything that you've got that you could use to decorate your card with. And you're going to need some felt tip pens and some glue and some scissors as well. So you're going to think about how you're going to decorate your card. You might want to cut out some hearts to go on your card. You might just want to colour your card. It's entirely up to you. So here we go. There's a heart I've got, and I'm going to start sticking it onto my card here that I've just started. So I'm going to just pop my heart. I don't like that flower. I'm going to get rid of that one. So I'm going to stick my heart here, just slightly over the edge. And then I'm going to use my felt pens to put lots more decoration onto my card. And as you're decorating your card, think about who you're going to give it to. And when you've finished your card, what message are you going to write? How can your words show love towards the person you've made your card for? And I'm sure whoever you give your card to is really, really going to appreciate the thought and the effort and everything that you've done for them to show them that you care for them.
Another great craft there. Right, time for us to start using our brain cells. Are you ready for another quiz? A quiz with Paul.
A quiz with Paul.
Hello, good to see you again. As before, 5 questions, 5 seconds each. The first question. In the New Testament, how many gospel accounts are there that tell us about the life of Jesus? How many gospel books? There are 4. Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. Second question. How did Jesus die? He was crucified on a cross by the Romans. Number 3. How many times did Peter deny Jesus? 3 times before the cock crowed. What is the last book in the New Testament? What's the name of the last book in the New Testament? It's Revelation, written by John. Revelations. And finally, last question. How did Paul escape from Damascus? He was let down over the wall in a basket to escape. That's the questions for this week. I hope you enjoyed doing them. Look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.
Takeaway. Number 1. Barabbas had been fighting off the Romans, but got arrested for murder. Number 2. This story is really a question. How will you live? Like Barabbas or like Jesus? Who will you choose? Number 3. When Jesus was arrested, spat at, kicked, beaten, questioned, he never fought back. He didn't fight. What can we learn from that? And there it is. There's our takeaway for this week. So there you go. That is the story of Barabbas and Jesus, which I'm sure we'll be thinking about in a few weeks' time when we get to Easter. And remember, it's a story that asks us a question. Not how do you eat your cream egg, but how will you live? Who will you follow? Will you follow Barabbas or will you follow Jesus and try and put other people first? Try and show compassion. Try and forgive even the people that we don't always get along with. I hope you have a lovely week. Stay safe. Enjoy the snow if there's any more. And we will look forward to seeing you again next week for another episode of The Bright Light Show. Bye. Boom.